A new study reveals that if you have anything rummaging around in your uterus these days, you could be considered a criminal.
Yikes. Plus, I was just in Colombia for the International Human Rights Film Festival and met some incredible abortion activists.
I'm so jealous. Lizz interviewed Eliana Rodriguez of the Green Wave movement in Barranquilla, and you'll be hearing just how badass she is later in the show.
Plus, comedian, actress, and writer Jenny Zigrino was here to talk about Afterbirth. Not her afterbirth, her comedy show that may or may not be about placenta.
You'll just have to listen, folks. All this coming up on this episode of the Feminist Buzzkills podcast, the show that welcomes beardos and avoids grooming standards at all costs.
Seriously, I don't think I've showered this week.
I'm Moji, and that filthy bitch is my co-host, Lizz Winstead.
Hi, everybody. Oh my God, we have such a packed show. It's wild.
And just when we were about to start taping, we got some crazy new news.
Oh my God. So, as we have all been panicking because a couple weeks ago, RFK sent a letter to the attorneys general around the country saying, we're going to relitigate Mifepristone because a new study came in and we all knew that study was full of shit. All of a sudden, we find out right now that the FDA has just approved a generic version of Mifepristone, which is the first drug you take in the medication abortion regimen.
And this is incredible news because essentially you can't approve a generic if it doesn't stand up to the same standards as the brand name. So this is essentially the FDA saying the brand name is effective and safe.
Yeah, and it's also not just stand up, but it has to mimic it exactly. Right. And so it'll be cheaper. It means that the studies they use to approve this generic have had to really match the studies that approved the brand name, right? So I'm curious as to how long the study has been going on and if the study started under the Biden administration's FDA so that the Trump administration could be like, oh, I don't know. But they're the ones that approved it. So they must have said, we don't care which administration the science came from. The science on this is solid and it's going to go to market.
So this is super exciting because that means we have another manufacturer manufacturing a pill that we need. And I'm excited. You're excited. Not everyone's excited, Lizz.
No, Josh Hawley's not excited. Josh Hawley his manhood has been, again, put into question here. He and his wife, Erin Hawley, who is like, the lead attorney for the Alliance for Defending Freedom, they're really mad because more access to emancipation is never good for the trad wife culture that Josh Hawley so rigidly participates in. So sorry about your halfie, buddy. We are moving forward with a cheaper and generic version of medication abortion. So that is good news. We'll put the link in the show notes and in our link tree so you can read the article. But wow.
I'm going to have a happy cocktail about this as soon as we're done taping, Lizz.
Well, I'm going to have to take some medicine for my spinning around before I have the cocktail because the volleyball game of emotions that is happening is really intense. But for now, this is good news, y'all. I know.
Before we get to the rest of the pod, we also have some cool events that we want to talk to you about. And one of them is an upcoming this weekend, Come Meet Moji Alert.
That's a fun thing.
This coming weekend, this coming Sunday, I will be working the AAF table at Atlantic Antic. And that's going to be from 12 noon to 6 p.m. And this festival is full of music, food, vintage clothing, and more than that, really fun and cool people, including me. So yeah, it takes place on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn from Hicks Street to 4th Avenue. We'll be on the north side of Atlantic Avenue between Bond and Nevin. So come, say hi, get a selfie with Anthony Comstock, get a tattoo from me, and details can be found at atlanticav.org.
That's right. And you can fill people in, Moji, on this great new medication abortion thing as well, because Anthony Comstock is not going to be happy about it.
You think I want to talk about anything else? I'm not.
We have another cool event coming up the following week. So if you're near Portsmouth, New Hampshire, October 9th, come and see No One Asked You, the documentary about our work here at Abortion Access Front, and support an amazing healthcare provider. The Loverling Health Center, which provides comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, family planning, gender-affirming care, will be screening the film at their Cheers for Choice fundraiser on October 9th at 5 p.m. at the Portsmouth Music Hall. Links to both of those things, again, will be in our show notes.
So this is lots of fun, cool opportunities, and we hope to see you.
That's right. Okay, so let's get to the show, shall we?
That's
All right, Moj. Why don't you kick us off with a steaming dump of this week's abortion news?
This week, Catholic Register implores men to insert themselves even further into our abortion experiences.
If that's even possible. But the article says they want us to center their sads when a sexual partner decides to choose abortion after he dumps the remnants of raw dogging into her uteri.
It goes on to claim these men are often found in the pews, alone, praying for forgiveness and healing.
Oh, absent from the piece, however, was research into how much time before the abortion these men spent on their knees begging their partners to be able to scream, oh God, without a condom.
Oh, God. And speaking of Catholics, God's favorite Cubs fan, Pope Leo XIV, came out on EWTN, the Catholic news channel, criticizing the inhumane treatment of immigrants and supporters of the death penalty as not really pro-life.
The Pope continued, saying Catholic hospitals that deny abortion care and allow women to die in parking lots is also not pro-life.
JK, that's still so pro-life.
God, seriously, what the hell? Anyway, finally, a federal court in the U.S. District of Western Michigan upheld a voter-approved constitutional right to an abortion on Tuesday.
The judge ruled the plaintiffs, including 3 state lawmakers, 6 individuals, and 5 anti-abortion groups, had not shown they were personally harmed by the amendment.
Wait, there are still courts in America that understand these carnal Karens have no skin in our abortion game and should slurk back to the busybody backwash from which they swam?
What do you know? This has been your steaming news dump.
Wow, that's really something that some judge out there unexpected that somebody was like, wow, my abortion does not affect you. All right, should we get to the meat of this week's mess?
So, a startling new study from Pregnancy Justice, which is one of the leading researchers and defenders against pregnancy criminalization, has found that since the fall of Roe in 2022, criminalization of pregnancy outcomes have skyrocketed. So let's look at the numbers.
Woof, let's.
Pregnancy Justice basically looked at court files and police investigation reports on hundreds of pregnant people whose charges were essentially tied to their pregnancy. And the dates they looked at were between June 24th, 2022, which is right after the Dobbs decision, and up to June 23rd, 2024. In this, they researched 412 defendants, and that covered mostly 16 states, but the vast majority of the arrests were reported out of Alabama with 192 arrests and Oklahoma with 112. And just to get a sense of like how far the chasm is between those two and everyone else, South Carolina was a distant third with 63 arrests. So basically Alabama and Oklahoma are doing the most here.
And you know, Oklahoma is sort of this unsung nightmare state. You know, we talk a lot about sort of the South, but this sort of Southwest Oklahoma, it's really a problem. They were one of the first states to impose like a 72-hour waiting period and to propose several times the death penalty for access to abortion. You know, they just recently, just this week, you know, they had that really creepy head of their education department who was like, we're going to put Bibles in every school, Trump Bibles. And then he said he's going to force every public school to have Charlie Kirk clubs.
Yep.
And then he mysteriously resigned.
In the middle of the night. It was literally like 10 p.m. when the alerts went out.
Yeah. And so that guy's also rabidly anti-abortion. So my guess is that, you know, I'm sure we'll be hearing some kind of horrible things about him anytime soon. But like those states were just so immediate to jump on. And when you think much about Alabama and the stories that we've covered from Alabama, pregnant women defending herself against being attacked and then being thrown in jail.
Yep. I remember that story from, I think it was like 2019. It was a terrible story.
Yeah. And so if they're just covering what's going on between post-Roe and 2 years after that.
Doesn't even cover what happened between 2024 and 2025, right? There's a year of court filings that are available that they probably just haven't had the time to get to.
Right. When we look at how many people have been arrested for miscarrying in toilets and the stories that have made the headlines of people like, you know, law enforcement doesn't understand that when you have an abortion, there happens to be fetal remains attached to it.
I actually really want to get to that, and we will as we get into the story. But those sort of splashy headlines around miscarriages basically being criminalized themselves isn't even the thrust of what this story covers. Like, of those 412 people, things that involve miscarriage is like 30. It's actually a lot of times people who had live births. But we'll get there. Like, the prosecutors basically tried to use all kinds of, not even tried to, because these are actual court records. They used a variety of criminal statutes to charge defendant, but mostly it was some form of child abuse, neglect, or child endangerment. But what's terrifying is all of these laws that they use were created to protect children, people who've been born, not fetuses. So all of this prosecution is essentially fetus protection in lieu of child protection. And we don't actually have fetal personhood on the books yet. So that's not actually how our laws work.
We don't have fetal personhood on the books, but if somebody were to pass a fetal personhood law and it would go to the Supreme Court, what they do is they try to have criminalization over and over and over and over again so that there's hundreds of cases that say, but wait, in America, we have charged and prosecuted people who have done harm on some
Mhm.
level to their fetuses. Therefore, we technically do honor fetal personhood. It's the same thing that they did with vehicular homicide of pregnant people, where some states were trying to pass laws that if something happened in vehicular homicide, you were killing two people if a person was pregnant.
Mhm.
It's setting up personhood in these weird ways. And that really scares me.
It's terrifying. To go to what they found in these court cases, most of the allegations, it was around substance use.
Ah,
It was primarily substance use. That was the vast majority. And like, you can feel how you will about substance use in pregnancy. I obviously don't champion it, but I also feel like a pregnant person's body is still their body. And what they
yeah.
do with their body is their business. But the other part, and this for me is equally chilling, 29 cases were because people didn't access prenatal care.
Well, that could be for a whole host of reasons. Hello, we're sitting here with the government shutdown right now, and so that people aren't cut off of Medicaid.
And also, even more than that, 35% of counties in this country are maternity care deserts, right? So there is no option for convenient maternity care, right? There's nowhere to go for maternity care. Also, Idaho itself, which is one of the states that does criminalize pregnancy, has lost 1/3 of its OBGYNs in this time period post Dobbs. And 3 full health systems have just shut down their labor and delivery services, which is also part of the OBGYN care. And so these are actual structural problems that individuals can't necessarily overcome on their own.
I think, just to put a fine point on it, they shut down because of the criminalization that was happening in the state. They didn't just
Yes,
shut down because
for
of,
funsies.
and I think, Moji, like in reading some of these findings in the study, first off, people are prescribed marijuana sometimes for nausea.
Absolutely. And nausea is a big problem when you're pregnant.
Yeah, and we covered a story, it was a post-op story of a person whose child, after it was born, tested positive for THC, and the state said that they got the person because the baby didn't have a medical marijuana card.
Well, fetuses don't get them issued. It's just a thing for fetuses. They don't
Right.
have, they also don't have birth certificates.
But what's really scary to me, Moji, is that in so many of these cases, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more, how many people are arrested, charged, criminalized by aggrieved partners or nurses, or people in a hospital setting who have decided that they've made a moral judgment
Yeah.
about whether or not somebody is put their pregnancy or their baby in danger.
Liz, those are the two main avenues towards criminalization. It's pretty much you go to a hospital and someone either legally or without cause tests umbilical cords or tests you for drugs and then calls the police, or a family member looks at you and is like, I don't like what you're doing. Here's the thing. Even when we think about criminalization, for the most part, police are not just hanging out around maternity wards, right? They're not just hanging around birthing centers. Someone has to call them and invite them and give them a name and a phone number. So it actually is also chilling that if we don't have hospitals or we don't have healthcare, and then the healthcare we do have is an avenue essentially for arresting someone.
Yeah. And I think with this study, it was such a small window and doesn't even include the escalation that we have watched this year. if you can be arrested for something you have done during your pregnancy, it is, again, another tool in the toolbox of taking us out of our full humanity and making us a piece of property to
Yes.
either the government or the person who impregnated us or the family of the person who impregnated us
Hmm.
or any whole host of things like that. And I think like every time we do one of these stories, please put on your tally card another way that we are no longer independent humans with
Yes.
full rights.
And I want to reiterate, I brought this up when you brought it up before. In these 412 cases, only 31 of them had some sort of fetal demise. So only 31 of them may have had some sort of miscarriage. The vast majority were these substance cases. That's really the red flag that we don't hear. And you don't hear these stories. I think we are all, to go what you were saying about us being property, people are really comfortable saying, oh, that's a crack mom, that's a meth mom, and then essentially putting a judgment on that person and allowing anything to happen to them, right? There's no sympathetic coverage for anyone who is pregnant and has done substances. And we know that addiction is a disease. And also, sometimes your doctor prescribes you things that make your pregnancy more comfortable. And in these stories, this is live births. Only 31 had fetal demise. So we're talking about hundreds of babies that were born, right? Hundreds of people who like gave birth, and after they gave birth to a living child, someone said, nope, that person should be removed from society and parenthood because they don't look the way I think parenthood should look.
And we do not want to help anybody thrive if they are struggling. If
Yes.
somebody is struggling with alcohol or drugs during a pregnancy, or somebody has something going on, there's only demonization. We lead with demonization. It's also in second place, it's in third place, it's the final straw, right? It's not how can we help you
No.
either parent and have a healthy pregnancy and make all of that available to you,
Yes.
or how can we help you not be pregnant anymore
Right.
so that you can get the help you need that way. Like, but
Yes.
it's never those questions, because that's what reproductive justice is. Looking at the whole experience of pregnancy and saying, how can we honor all pregnancy choices and all pregnancy outcomes so that everybody is thriving? And when you were saying that it was 35% of counties in this nation have a desert,
Yeah.
and just listening today as we're in this government shutdown and hearing Trump talk to Russell Vogt, the 2025 guy who was just like running our country, and saying that we're going to cut programs, that the woke programs, and one of the woke programs that he said he wants to cut as fat during the government shutdown is expanding broadband to rural areas, which means rural hospitals, which means these rural deserts that you're talking about. So what does that mean, Moji? Talk about like what that means for
It
telemedicine.
means no telemedicine. And again, when we talk maternal desert, it means people have to drive hours to get care. And I had a relatively healthy pregnancy, and I did prenatal care the way that we do prenatal care in this country. And while it's okay if you have a healthy pregnancy, you could do a telehealth prenatal care if you have a scale, and maybe you could take your blood pressure and you can talk to a doctor. That is a decent way to make sure you're getting prenatal care and to at least see any red flags that they come up. But if you cut broadband access and the only other option is to drive 2 hours each way to get prenatal care, how are you supposed to do that in work?
And that's assuming so much, right? I'll never forget when we were in West Virginia doing shows, and when abortion was still legal in West Virginia, the clinic that was in Charleston was so incredible because they did prenatal care, they did abortions, they did helping people with diapers and stuff like that. But they were driving into these hollers because
Mhm.
people did not have access to get out of the hollers and get any kind of care at all. And so, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about, where it's making so many assumptions about people having access to a vehicle to get to a hospital. Is the closest hospital Catholic?
Mhm.
Like, what does that mean for you as we watch the gobbling up? So, the study is really interesting, and it's really full of a lot of examples of just how we're in a space that is a slippery slope towards if you're punished if you have any pregnancy complications. There's a judgment and a criminalization of that judgment, which is also, you know, that's something that escalated rapidly after Roe because it was people were given permission.
Yes.
For so long, the anti-abortion movement knew that they were punishing the physicians and they didn't ever want to punish the people having abortions. But as Christian nationalism started gobbling up the anti-abortion movement so profoundly, punishing people who have pregnancy loss, making them suspects if they didn't have a healthy outcome.
Which is also like a modeling of ideal motherhood, right? I feel like it's a whole lot of negative things, but one of them is creating this idea like that's a good mother. And if you deviate from this norm, you're a terrible person.
Well, and I just came back from Colombia. It was very exciting because the documentary film about our work at Abortion Access Front called No One Asked You was featured at the International Human Rights Film Festival in Colombia. It played in 9 cities, and I got to go and got to do a talk back after 3 of the screenings. And in the conversations of the screenings, first of all, people were shocked that we have less abortion rights than they do in Colombia.
They have 24 weeks nationally.
Yes. But the thing that they asked the most about and were the most fascinated about was this idea of Christian supremacy and trad wives, and how is it that this movement that they're seeing on TikTok, like it's in their TikTok feeds too,
Yeah.
how they're seeing this forced version of being a woman.
Yeah.
They were terrified about it. And the men were terrified by it. The men were like, first of all, why are American women embracing this? Then a couple of the men said, and I thought it was really interesting, they said, why do the men want to take on so much pressure? Like, and I was like, oh my God, that is such evolved
Thinking.
And in a country that is full of machismo and Catholicism and everything, these men were like, wow, they really understood the concept of feminism helps everyone.
Everyone. Yeah.
And it was so interesting to just watch young Colombian people who had just fought so hard, right, to go from decriminalization to full legal abortion, wonder why it is that we were sliding back at the same time they were moving forward.
It does feel like part of the draw is the insidiousness, right? Like, I feel like it's the way we've been able to consume all kinds of curated Instagram content and then to sort of like not ask questions, right? Like, also, Liz, I think because the fight for our rights feels so far away, I think that some of our women don't know how hard we fought and how hard our foremothers fought for the rights that we've taken for granted.
I think that is exactly right. And I think that is the lesson that I took so profoundly from these Colombian activists who it was in 2006 where you were could be thrown in jail for having an abortion. And so between 2006 and 2022, that fight was real and present for everyone. And so I think this is a good time to roll my interview with Eliana because she really talks about a lot of this and just the bravery and how people do it. So I think we're going to get to it.
Liz, I also want to say, Colombia is one of my favorite places in the world, especially Cartagena. So I am so jealous of this trip and really excited to hear about the conversations you had.
I felt very honored and privileged to be able to talk to somebody who had put so much on the line and who fought so hard and who is so young and enthusiastic. It really gives you hope. So these people have done a great job. And if you don't know about the sort of South American movement for abortion, it was called the Green Wave movement, and it took off in many countries and helped emancipate and give people access to abortion in many countries, Colombia being one of the most successful. So my next guest is an incredible woman who talked to me about the strategies they use to change hearts and minds about abortion in a very Catholic country. We talked about what we in the US can learn from their campaign and the work that lies ahead for them and for us. So please welcome a student activist from Barranquilla, Colombia, Eliana Rodriguez. Eliana, I am so excited to see you again since our fantastic visit in Colombia. And I really am excited for you to be able to share your activism in Colombia and how it is similar and also different than how we do things in the US. So for those of you who I touched on it briefly and earlier in the show, but Ileana and I met at the International Human Rights Film Festival in Colombia, and you were translating for us a talkback conversation after the documentary No One Asked You, which is the documentary about the work we do here at Abortion Access Front. And so I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about how, after you watched that documentary, the similarities that you saw it, or your reaction to what's going on as far as the fight for abortion access in the US.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited we can talk about it. Here in Colombia, it's really different. Like a woman here in Colombia can do abortion and it's legal up to 24 weeks of pregnancy. So even if we don't have like a lot of access to education about abortion, we know that we can and we know that it's a right. I didn't know the United States was working like that. I know that it's like really difficult to fight for something that you can do and women can do especially, but I didn't know it was just for some states.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to ask you about because every country has its own regions and its own ways. And I wondered if the United States was different in that, it seems like in Colombia, you fought for the right to access to abortion, and the
Yeah.
whole country gets that right. It's not like a person in Bogota has different abortion rights than a person in Barranquilla.
Barranquilla, yeah, it's like the same for all. And we know that it's legal until 24 pregnancy weeks to everyone. Like, it doesn't matter if you are located in Bogota or in Medellin, you are always going to have your right. So people know that. I think that is important because when we start to fragmentate things, that is the problem starts. So that's why I think the United States is like completely messing up everything related with abortions and politics and with women because it doesn't matter if I have the right if the other woman in other state cannot have the assets to that. It doesn't work like that.
And so the thing that's like was so interesting when I was talking to you is in 2022 in the States, we lost federal access and national access to abortion, right? And they let states do whatever they wanted. In 2022, you and all of your cronies who fought so hard actually decriminalized abortion and won the right to have it up to 24 weeks. So you were working in Barranquilla. Tell me a little bit about the tactics y'all used to really mobilize people and what you thought the most effective way to change the hearts and minds so that you could decriminalize abortion was in the fight.
Yeah, well, I think that the big problem here is that people normally doesn't have education about abortion. So it's really criminalized. And also Colombia is like a Catholic country, you know? So we are always guided by what God says and what the Bible says. So it's really like a hard work to try to people can learn and try to people to decriminalize something like abortion. So that was the first fight.
How did you help Catholic people see it in a different way?
I think that we need to be able to open up for all our thoughts because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to change a mindset or a way to see the life. I'm trying to say, like, I have a right to decide if I want to be a mom, if I want to have a child. And abortion is important because also it's a problem of healthcare. So it's a public situation. And even if you believe on or not in God, even if you're Catholic, even whatever you are, you need to understand that people have different ideas, different than yours, and we need to be guided by that and for politics. And if the Constitution here in Colombia says that I'm able to decide and I'm able to have an abortion whenever I needed to, you have to respect that. And we have to keep working on that as a woman. So I think that that is like the first challenging, just to normally people are going to judge you. Normally people are going to say, why are you doing that? That is like a horror situation. And we need to be very strong about it, like not to take things personal because that is like the big problem here Also, when I started doing activism, it was since 2020 and 2022. We were like collective things. There is an account that is called Causa Justa por el Aborto that is located in Bogota. So we start like just to see that people in Bogota were trying to work and fight for these rights. And we say here in Barranquilla, we need to do that as well.
Did the different cities, Bogota, Barranquilla, Medellin, all these places, did you all coordinate and come up with and use the same messaging, use the same posters,
Yeah, I think that we always coordinate things, not to do it as the same as Bogota, maybe because the cultural things change a lot. So we just try to coordinate how in different cities we can work what we have things. And that is something that I really like a lot because some girls located in Ibagué and in Medellin create a song about patriarchy and about abortions and about women. So every person, every woman that was in like into an abortion stuff, they knew the song. And normally we sang when we were out. So that was like something that it really remembered me at that time because it was really interesting how art and how teachers would create a song we're doing about abortion. So it was really fun and also it was very politic to do that. And also, once we have all the information here in Barranquilla and we convocate people, it was the green wave and the purple wave because it was everything about feminism. So once we receive and once we have like the people around there, that it was a lot of movement back in 2020. It was like really fun and it really showed me that women care about it and the woman here in Barranquilla knows how to have the right. Some people didn't know how abortion was working in Colombia. So we also educate about that. And we also help girls that wanted to have more information about it because they were having like for something related with abortions. So I think that when you do activism and when you do activism in a country and in a city as Barranquilla it is, we have to be very passionate about it, but we also need to be very strong because people can be really rude and we need to take care about every woman that is in a location to us. So I think the woman right here stands up for what we want and for the rights. And we don't let like people, Catholic people, or maybe like politics into man to take care about it. There is this woman called Carol Solis, and she's doing an awesome job, like in politics, just to stand up about all the sassy stuff. When a woman is talking and speaking out loud about politics and my position around that, it really triggers other people, especially men. So it's really important. It's really to help to new generations and to new girls to know like, hey, I have a right. Hey, I can decide what I want. I have a voice. I didn't grow up knowing that I have a voice.
We talked about the divisions in your family, right? That you were brought up Catholic. I was brought up Catholic. And tell a little bit about how you navigated with your family so you could talk about it and still remain close, and how your dad actually helped you prepare for one of your marches.
My family is really Catholic, and I also always been like a woman that stands up for what I believe. Like I studied humanities. You cannot tell me how I have to think. And when I started doing activism, but my mom used to know that I was doing that, and she was okay with that. But my dad didn't know. So first, I was hiding everything. So when I stopped hiding everything, I used to have a backpack where I was hiding everything about bandanas, clothes. So one day I just decided not to hide it anymore because it was real. So he noticed that I asked him one time just to help me out for finish bandanas. I was the bandana girls, I was giving the green and the purple one. And he started to help me out because he really likes to do that. And one time I asked him to take me to a meeting and I was with my backpack. And he started to read, actually to read what the bandana says. So the bandana says, pro-abortion in Barranquilla. And when he read everything about abortion, he told me like, Eliana, what are you doing? And I explained to him, like, there is all a way the woman working for politics activism. And I'm doing part of that, a big part of that. And he was really mad. He wasn't even, he was going to take back to my place, to my home. I stood up and I told him that I was doing it. And then the next week, he helps me to keep doing the bandanas, even if he wasn't like fully support. So once, even he doesn't stop me, even he told me that he wasn't like really 100 full support or agree with what I'm doing, who was able to help me out to keep doing the bandanas. And the bandanas was a big thing because it was showing to other people, the people were supporting that. When I use a bandana and people start to wonder, hey, what is that? What is no one asked you? Or what is the bandana, the purple or the green one? It's a conversation, a whole conversation. Hey, I'm an activist. And hey, I'm doing this for abortion in women in Colombia. So we actually show everything. And I think that there is a way to start talking without overstimulate people. So I always try to keep up everything and to try to inform people about what I'm doing. Because when you try and you start to open up to other persons, people are going to succeed to that, are going to open as well. And going to tell me, oh, well, I am not pro-aborto. I'm not pro-abortion, but I understand what you are telling me.
That feels so important. And so you started your activism in 2020. You were how old?
I was like 19 years old.
Okay, so you were 19 and you're in Barranquilla. Barranquilla is on the coast. It's a couple hours north of Cartagena for people. Colombia is in the west side of South America, kind of north, in a country that is very Catholic. I was also a couple years back, I traveled over to meet with some feminists over in Europe, in Croatia and in Slovenia, which are also both very Catholic countries. And what they had liberal abortion laws, but the physicians were Catholic, so they wouldn't perform the abortions. So is that something that's also facing Colombia as a problem where you have a bunch of Catholic doctors who were like, nope, not doing it?
Yeah, that is like the same situation. It's not similar, it's the same situation here. Imagine if I'm going to have an abortion, I go to a doctor and the doctor is Catholic. Hey, I can't do that. I cannot do it. Why you don't think that twice? I have here a therapist that can help you to think more about it. Try to persuade you about that. So normally for Catholic doctors, it's like I am not doing anything. So that's why we decided to do private in a private way so the doctor can be a professional and can do what I'm asking to do without feeling judgment.
That's great. I also wanted to ask you, is medication abortion the most used way that people are having their abortions?
Yeah, it's the pill, it's the medication. So you can go to a pharmacy and you can ask for that, and that's okay. Yeah,
That's great.
normally we can do that.
And for folks who, again, not to give a geography lesson, but you have Colombia, and then you are surrounded by Ecuador and Peru and Brazil and Venezuela, all who have abortion bans. So when Colombia legalized abortion, are you seeing an influx of people coming from those countries to have abortions in Colombia? And do you have, like we have in the United States, networks of activists who are helping people come from those countries to access care?
Yeah, I think that when you start to doing and you start to show everything about what you're doing, other countries are going to watching you. So when it's about Venezuela, when it's about Ecuador, or even Panama or Brazil that has a lot of healthcare problems, you can see the people are going to be find like Colombia a safe place for doing an abortion. So that is a good thing. However, we need to keep working for that countries, for that movements, the women's up there in Colombia, in Venezuela, in Puerto Rico, even to can start to do that. Because if Colombia can, if a woman in Colombia can have an access and can have the right to have an abortion, other people around can do it as well. All the women around can do it as well. Even if I'm not doing it, I need to know that there is a possibility. I need to know that it's my right. Even for a study, even for to have medical care, abortion is a right that I have to know that I have it. So even if it's illegal, abortions are going to keep happening. You know, it's a reality. So why you want to make a woman to have all that way harder if I only can legalize it? When women speak up and try to respect the right, that is the problem. It's not to have an abortion because abortions are always going to happen, even if it's illegal or not.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
So tell me this, these fights never stop because patriarchy is always mad when we are free. So what is it that Colombian activists are doing now to expand access or to actually keep the people from trying to roll it back? What are you guys working on now?
We're trying to expand the assets. Some people cannot have the information properly about abortion. And also, that Colombia is into a civil war like for years. So people normally don't have all the access information properly in other kind of the countries. So the first thing that we are doing, try to make a public domain of everything so people can know. Like I can use my phone and I can do what can I do if I am pregnant. It seems normal to me, but for other people here in Colombia, it's not. So we are trying to do that first. And we are always trying to melt politics here. So even if we have that access, it's always like into trying to keep working and try to have it.
Yeah, the fight never stops. And that's the whole thing is that we have to remember that the second we have a victory in the US anyway, it seems like people go on holiday and act like we won. And it's like, no, we won a tiny, tiny battle in a much larger war. Where can people find you? Where can people look to support the activism that's happening? Who are some organizations that you would want people to follow on social media? Where can we follow you on social media? Let people know that where we can do that.
If people wanted to get more information about abortion here in Colombia, they can follow Causa Justa por el Aborto. And you can also find me on Instagram. That is like the most social media that I'm using right now to do activism. And my username is Eliana, ELIANA, as in Carlos, Road, ROD.
Great. We'll put all those links in the show notes, Eliana. I feel so grateful that we got to spend so much time together. I mean, not enough. It was only 24 hours, but we did talk a lot and learned a lot. And I feel like you are really an inspiration of just really
Thank
making it
you.
happen, working hard, understanding that you have to speak truth to power in the face of all of it. So thank you so much for coming on the pod. We're going to drive everybody to your Instagram and to the Instagram of the organization.
Thank you so much. I think that you are doing an amazing job. And even if we are not into the very country insights, I think that it's everything for a woman. Like you can connect with me and I can connect with your history because it's going to be always like that. The idea is to keep working and keep fighting and never shut up about that.
Yes, never shut up about that.
Thank you so much for
Okay,
having
dear,
me.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, Liz, what a great conversation. You can find Eliana and learn more about abortion activism in Colombia on links in our show notes.
That's right. She mentioned some super cool organizations and herself on Instagram. So go find those handles and follow, follow, follow.
As always, if you need resources on accessing abortion, you can find the best, most up-to-the-minute info on getting abortion care and funding for your care on our website, aafront.org. Our Charlie chatbot on the bottom right will walk anyone, anywhere in the country through their options and resources for abortion.
As you know, we do the show because this info is not given enough attention in the media. So help us spread the word and show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. Every bit helps us to reach more listeners.
And now, Liz, the party game that is faster than Monopoly and more fun than Taboo. It's 6 degrees of abortion. This is when I take a story from the news and Liz has 6 chances to link it to abortion. And you did great last week. Let's see if I can stump you this week, Liz.
All right.
This week, we hailed the joyous announcement that Bad Bunny would be headlining the Super Bowl. I'm excited, huge fan, and I'm wondering if you can link Bad Bunny, Puerto Rican performer and activist, and soon to be Super Bowl performer, to abortion.
Bad Bunny to abortion. Well, let's see. I know Bad Bunny is amazing, outspoken around immigration. I don't know if he's Catholic. I don't know. But what I do know is Bad Bunny is from Puerto Rico. Another fine ass Puerto Rican is Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin-Manuel Miranda is an outspoken abortion activist. So Bad Bunny to Lin-Manuel Miranda to abortion.
Yes, Liz, yes.
Thank you.
You
Thank
gotta
you. Thank
work.
you. Did you have another path in mind,
I
Moji?
actually hadn't figured a path, and honestly, I was like, the man's doing the Super Bowl. There are many paths.
Right, right.
Like, literally any person who's ever performed at the Super Bowl is a potential path. I just wanted to announce.
I wish I had a more interesting path, but we did it.
I think that's pretty good. Who doesn't love Lin-Manuel? Also, the Hamilton movie thing came out recently. I feel like we're in a good place.
That production donated tickets to us way early on, and we put them on Charity Buzz during the height of Hamilton, and we got some money from that too. So I had forgotten that as well.
That's very cool.
I could have added abortion access right in there.
You
and I
just
blew it.
did. You just did, Liz. That was pretty great. That's a flex. That was probably before I joined the team.
I think it was before you, Moji. It seems like there couldn't be a time before
It
you.
feels like there was never a time before me, and yet.
And yet. And you know what, Moji? We are doing a time with you. And as our listeners know, you cannot do this podcast with Liz and Moji without our sponsors. And so today we're going to introduce you to a new sponsor.
Are you an American soldier looking for a body wash that will help you meet the military's new rigorous grooming standards? You need an all-in-one product that will give you a 5-star clean from your bean to your peen. And Hummer's Eve will hegseth your privates and turn them into privates first class.
Indeed. Hummer's Eve never offers woke, weak body wash scents like Sweet Booty Judge or Jasmine Crotchet.
Never. Hummer's Eve smells like freedom, readying you for a battle with an essence of patriotism like Gold Bondi or Andrew Tate.
With Hummer's Eve, you'll never worry about passing another cleanliness inspection. And if you order now using the promo code NOHOMO, they'll throw in a can of Glow Job, the only shaving cream endorsed by Hegseth himself.
Hummer's Eve, the quicker dicker upper. Liz, that sounds disgusting.
Who would want to smell like Andrew Tate? I love Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate is perfect.
Nothing for the women, though.
No women. It's not about women's.
They want us out. But I would buy Jasmine Crotchet as a body wash.
Listen, if you offered me a sweet booty judge, fuck yes.
I'm on it.
Fuck yes.
Oh my God. You know who else would like a sweet booty judge? Our next guest.
Oh, yeah. You may have seen her on Conan O'Brien, Netflix as a Joke, Comedy Central, or most recently on After Midnight with Taylor Tomlinson. Her sweet and salty delivery is charming and disarming with a hilarious bite. Have a listen.
Okay, this is what dating is like in your late 30s, okay? How old are you? 27? Perfect. You will not relate. So this is what it's like dating in your late 30s, okay? It feels like a lake that's drying up, and it's revealing all these corpses at the bottom of the lake. And then you go, I choose that corpse. And then that corpse is like, oh, I know that I'm like a rotting corpse at the bottom of this lake. And I smell bad and my flesh is rotting off my bones. But I just need to see what else is out there. You know what I mean? Like... I'm just like not ready. Could you Venmo me for this drink? Like that. That's what it's like.
Please welcome Jenny Zigrino.
Jenny Zigrino. Also, I love that you think that that's about dating in your 30s because I don't know, when you're 60s and on a dating app, you have like literally 80-year-old guys who are like, you're too old.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I've gotten off the dating apps because even at like 38, I've kind of aged out because a lot of the dudes my age are in panic mode where they're like, I need to have a family right now. And so they're all like, what's the 30-year-old where it's not creepy, but they're guaranteed to be fertile versus me, who is, by the way, fertile as hell. I just went to the clinic. I'm above and beyond fertility.
Tell me about your abundance of fertility.
So I was like, I'm going to freeze my eggs because I'm also like, do want a family. But men, I don't know if you've met them. They're terrible right now. They're just
One
going
or
through
two.
something.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to freeze my eggs. And you go in and you get checked and like, you know, all your hormones and stuff. And then they put the little wand inside you. And I had 17 follicles, which is like way more for someone my age. Should be like 10 to 12. So I'm like ready. Okay. If you want to get me pregnant, I know this is a different kind of podcast, but I'm ready to get pregnant.
Okay. So, you know, anybody out there listening who wants to get Jenny pregnant
Yeah.
and she doesn't want to have an abortion.
But if you want to have one, that's your right. And I'm never going to stop you from doing that. I already had mine in my 20s. I did it. I lived.
You don't want to have any regrets, right?
No.
So you want to make sure you get that abortion in so that you can check it off the list.
Get one or two in. Yep.
Check it off the list.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's good. I know. My sisters call me Terminator 3. Jenny Zigrino, thank you for being here.
Okay, so your current tour is called Afterbirth. Now, you don't have kids, so your show couldn't be about your placenta. And I can't imagine you've written an hour of comedy about someone else's placenta. So, like, what's your Afterbirth story? Bring us up to speed.
I mean, unless it's a Kardashian's placenta, all right? She dehydrated that stuff and she ate it.
Look, I have a cousin who does the same thing, and she fried it up with onions and ate it under a tree.
Okay.
I just want to say that's cannibalism, right? The placenta is the baby's organ, and so that's fucking ridiculous. Mine is in a pickle jar looking like beef jerky, so I can get to it if when the apocalypse comes, maybe I will be munching on my baby's placenta, but I don't know. I feel like I got canned beans too.
I'm going to keep mine in a jar right next to my baby's foreskin, okay?
Exactly.
We're going to
Oh, you're
just everything.
There's a lot going on, right?
You know what? Even if I wasn't, I still want it. I still want a little piece of my baby. So I'm a creep. It's fine.
Why are you writing a whole hour of comedy about someone else's afterbirth?
So the idea of afterbirth is the messiness that comes out of like this rebirth. And the actual concept of the special is about change, grief, loss. I talk about my sister passing. I talk about breakups. I talk about having to move across the country and change your whole life up. So it's really about the afterbirth of all these incredible changes and how, you know, afterbirth, it's gross and messy, but then you have this new life. So I think that for me, it was, you know, it was a fun visual to think of. And it made sense because I'm in New York. I lived in LA for 10 years. I left after my grief cup was overfilled and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I, you know, did a crazy thing and started over at 38. And on top of that, I do talk about this journey to like, actually, I want to have a kid. And what does that look like as a woman who's 38 and single? So I talk about that.
It looks great.
It looks amazing. If people want to donate money to me.
I mean, yeah, because that shit's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we've been talking with like Chanel Ali and Maria Bamford and like
Young me.
Mayer. And I love this trend of, I think I got into comedy to like sort of mask the pain.
Yes.
And now people are using comedy to lay out the pain and tell the story and sort of share with other people the messiness, which I think is awesome. And is that sort of part of your intention? Like, why am I holding my shit in and I should be, bringing it to community?
Yeah, I think that as comics, we talk so much about so many life things like dating and moving and, my experience doing XYZ. But death is like the one thing we're all going to share and we're all going to do. Not all of us are going to have kids. Not all of us are going to move across country, but we're all going to know someone who's died and we're all going to die. So why is it the one thing that we never really talk about? And I think that it was important, too, for me to talk about this because I also had very complicated feelings about my sister, which a lot of people do. We've all got one. We've all got one sibling in that family that's just like a little weird.
And if you don't, you're it.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way.
Yep.
Exactly. So I think I try very lovingly to bring to the front the complications of my sister, but also the beauty in her, and that like even the most complicated, flawed people that online we would hate actually are loving and wonderful in their own way. I don't want to give too much away. Come see me
don't.
talk about my dead sister.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the fertility clinic. I always loved comics who actually spoke about their life. I always found like one-liner comedians to be so boring after a while.
Yeah.
I always just wanted to be a comic that was very vulnerable.
I agree, because I feel like you can teach somebody to be that kind of comic. You can, because it's acting. If you're just doing the jokes, that's acting. But to be able to tell stories and to have your insides be so available that you can tap into it all the time, I think is much more interesting as a performer. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that people, whether or not they admit it, resonate more with that person. Like, sure, okay, we want to go laugh, ha ha ha, but if you can actually change somebody's mind through comedy and through your own vulnerability.
I actually 100% agree. I feel like when we talk about sort of comedy that resonates, everyone generally does talk about someone who just told a story and just made you feel a little something somewhere,
Yeah.
So, Jenny, you're a woman from Minnesota.
It has been rumored.
Allegedly, with a Jewish mom and a Catholic father.
Yes.
And that can be difficult to sort of navigate anywhere, but especially in Minnesota. So who told you to be passive aggressive?
That's what I want to know. Where did you learn the passive aggressive part?
We're not handing that out in Minnesota.
You know what? Neither of my parents were really passive aggressive.
Right. So how did you exist here? You weirdo.
Well, I think that like I have the niceness of Minnesota, but like that's when I went to Boston, I think is where I really flourished because I was still really nice, but I was like, oh yeah, I get to be kind of a dick here and it's great, which is kind of how my stand-up evolved to like being fun and teasing, and I'm a little bit of an asshole, but like not too much. Like I'm your friend, but also I'm your friend I can't even do that, who tells it like it is. Like
the stereotype of Minnesota happens a lot, right? But it is like the reality of how you have to hang on to your shit so hard is something that's really hard to explain to people. Like, you're like, oh, I'm sorry that you raped me.
Yeah.
How can I make that up to you? It's like that level of like apologizing to couches when you walk into them.
Yep.
It's just like never ask for what you need. You're going to the hospital. You're kind of like, here's the thing. I think my ear is decomposing and I just didn't want to bother anybody. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then it goes, but then it does come out in weird ways to your family.
Yeah. Like getting cancer.
Exactly. My dad, he's so funny. He like his knee hurt and he just couldn't be like, hey, I got a knee problem. It's really hurting. It was like the text was like, hey, if you're free, can you give me a call? It's not that important. And I was like, then I call him and he's like, I'm at the doctor's. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to die. Versus just being like, hey, my knee hurts.
Yeah.
That's it. It had to be this runaround of like, well, I don't, I thought maybe you were doing something else. I didn't want to bother you with the fact that my knee might be hurting. And I was like, cool, because I thought you were dying this entire time for 2 hours versus you just being like, oh, hey, my knee hurts.
Can I tell you how much money I have spent on false alarm plane rides back to Minnesota? Because when you have a bunch of A relatives, everybody has, it's either dire or it's nothing. And then the parents are like, if you can, it's wild how that all works out. So I feel you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so look. So now that we're talking about passive aggressive people and just aggressive people, I got to get your take on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Come on.
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
did you get an invite?
I didn't. I posted a video where I was like, I mean, it's satire, but it's like, these comics don't need that money, but like, I do. I'll do it. Dude, please hire me. Give me $100. I don't care. Just
$100.
whatever. Come on.
That's like barely Metro card for the month in New York.
It is
I need
so
money,
wild.
please. It's the audacity of these people being like free speech and then going over there to perform. It's just like, oh, yeah, of course it was never about free speech.
No.
It was just about you just yelling into the world that you didn't get to say the R word and now all of our rights are gone so that you can say it. And then you just get paid the most you've been paid for a show and you don't even get to say it.
Being paid for by people who carved up journalists and put them in a bag.
Yeah.
That's who you're working for and bringing joy to.
Yes.
So you guys have to walk people through this Riyadh festival because I feel like some of our listeners may not be on all the comedy Instagram influencers.
Saudi Arabia is slowly buying up all of Western culture. This is actually, they just bought up EA Games and 2/3 of Americans play video games. Exactly. So they are, because they want in 2030 to be more modern and all this stuff, but it's also like, you also are horrible for, human right violations, but okay, video games. So they're slowly trying to kind of buy Western entertainment. And part of that is the Saudi prince invited all these comedians for a comedy festival. And these are comedians. Some of them you're like, well, yeah, of course.
Of course, Louis C.K. Of course.
Of course. There are a couple I'm upset about, but also I'm like, whatever, get your bag. And then one comedian who wasn't invited did post this thing that kind of making fun of like, oh, like America is so much better. Like we also do terrible things. And it's like, well, but we're born here. And
when they're here, it's homegrown awful, but they're importing their awful to a more awful place.
Exactly.
Let's be clear. I'm not doing the Clarence Thomas Comedy Festival. No. I mean, that's the difference. We do bad things here.
And I am actively boycotting the KKK Comedy Festival.
Yeah, the KKK Comedy Festival or the Donald Trump Invitational. Like, we have private citizens who own comedy clubs and theaters where we perform. That is the hottest, dumbest take maybe ever that I've heard.
Had I gotten offered $500,000, I probably would have taken it and then donated half of it to some amazing cause. Do you know what I mean? Mama needs that money. Okay, I have so much debt. But
I feel like one of my thoughts is like, I'm not a comedian, so no one's going to invite me to the comedy festival anyway. But I do just feel like these people who like need it for their fifth yacht, like why?
Are they just trying to tell us it's not only trans women they hate all women? This is an opportunity to just clear that up.
They have 3 women.
They're all, you know what? They have 3 women who have decided that what happens to women don't matter. I'm sorry. I give nobody any fucking pass. I don't give you a pass.
They don't care. It's like,
it's not enough money that can make up for what they do to women, the rape islands that exist there,
the slavery that exists there, that nobody wants to talk about,
the financing of murders.
You know what? It just like, when's the ICE Comedy Festival?
Oh man, those guys need a laugh. They've been having a really hard time.
It's hard, they just
so hard to like
get the mask off and breathe.
To body check a child, so hard.
Jenny, one of the many reasons you're never going to be invited is because you push so many boundaries in your act, which are obstacles of being booked even here. You don't even have to go to Riyadh, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Yeah,
You know
trust
what
me.
I mean? And so much of the press, not so much this week, but last week about comedy was about the late night white dudes being canceled. But like, that's not actually new to women comics and queer comics and
No.
comics of color. So what have your experience
Where's our parade?
been?
Where's our boycott?
Where's our boycott?
Yes.
Like your personal experiences, like being a woman who speaks her mind and speaks about abortion and fertility and your life. How has that affected your work? Do you see like how it's impacted the opportunities you've been afforded?
I think that like definitely, you do one video that goes viral that maybe isn't necessarily about the comedy that you do, like it's a crowd work thing or whatever. You get a bunch of new fans, then you start posting the stuff that's actually true to you, and then you get a lot of comments of people being like, "Oh, I didn't know that this was like you. This isn't what I'm here for." And it's like, well, you should have vetted me before you joined up. Like, I don't know. And sometimes you post one thing and you'll lose 200 followers. And you're like, oh, okay. I guess I shouldn't have voiced an opinion on that. So it is frustrating because, and I think this kind of goes into what the afterbirth is about at the end of it. The second half of it is about there are people who maybe you don't agree with them like 100,000%, but it doesn't mean that they are any less valuable, right? So like, I would rather someone who doesn't agree with me fully but sticks around because they're like, maybe I can learn something from this comic, or something they're saying is kind of piquing my interest and is a little different than I'm used to, than someone who's like, I only listen to this comedian and this type of comedy, and anything that diverts from it I will never care about. I'd rather have fans that are a little more diverse in their thinking and more nuanced, which is hard on social media to find.
It's hard in America.
Like, there is no nuance. It's very difficult.
Oh my God, it's true. Jenny, I think that's wise. It helps you build consensus. It helps you educate people. And then the ones that want to drop off, you're like, okay, that's on you, which I think is also great.
Yeah.
So Jenny, for those who aren't in Riyadh, where can they find you on tour and on social?
Sure. I am Jenny Zigrino on Instagram. I'm also at Jenny Zigrino Comedy on TikTok. I'm also on Threads. I am not on Twitter because it is a cesspool nightmare, like most social media, but I feel a little less, like that's Riyadh. I'm gonna.
That's my Riyadh.
That's Riyadh. Threads and Instagram is the Chuckle Hut in Peoria. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the best, but it's fine. I'm doing a big tour this month, so this comes out Friday. I'll be in Pittsburgh. Saturday, I'm in Columbus. You can catch me at this in Stamford on the 15th of October. I'm also going to be doing a show in Denver on the 12th and the 11th in Georgetown, Colorado. I'm doing a half hour of brand new material in Denver that is history-based jokes. So I'm doing a lot of research on how what we're going through now is exactly what we've gone through in the past, and kind of how can we not repeat the same mistakes. But turns out we will.
Turns out we will, and apparently we survived too.
Doing it
to survive. Oh my gosh. And Jenny, I love a smart comedy.
We'll link you everywhere. Our show notes will have it. We're going to plug it again in the end of the show, so you will not know how to find the hilarious Jennifer Zigrino.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm so excited.
Check out Jenny on Instagram at Jenny Zigrino and TikTok at Jenny Zigrino Comedy, and everything else you want to know about Jenny Zigrino, go to jennyzigrino.com/live.
Liz, that's our show.
It is our show. What a fun one.
Thanks again to Eliana. Don't forget to follow her on social. All the links are in our show notes.
That's right. And if you want to learn more about the Green Wave movement, we put a link there too. I think that's important to say.
I agree 1000%.
Thank you, Moji. I thought I'd throw that in there. We always ask this, but we're going to ask it again. Did we make you smarter today? Did we make you laugh? Show us some love by liking, subscribing, and giving us a 5-star rating. Plus, stay connected with us on social media at Abortion Front across all platforms throughout the week. With your help, we can get more people to learn about this assault on abortion access and do something about it.
Yes, do something. Browse our awesome Operation Save Abortion trainings at operationsaveabortion.com. You can get an abortion activist glow up and learn all about the areas abortion providers and patients need your help. Our super cool activist calendar is also there for you and is full of local and national actions and educational opportunities. Check out OperationSaveAbortion.com.
Another program we love sharing is a great mutual aid program we have at Abortion Access Front called Adopt a Clinic, where the public can support independent clinics, abortion funds, clinic escort groups, and patients directly by ordering much needed items from an org's wish list. Today, we're highlighting the Women's Health Center of Maryland. These amazing folks are asking for everything from panties to coffee to pillows. See the link in our show notes to help them out. And if you want to get more specifically involved with Abortion Access Front, we need you. Sign up to volunteer at our website at aafront.org, and we can figure it out together.
We are dark next week, working on some more good trouble, but we'll be back October 17th with Sarah Hartshorn, comedian, author, and former AF writer and road warrior. Sarah will be here to talk about her new memoir, You Want to Be on Top, about being plus-size model contestant on America's Next Top Model. She's also fucking hilarious, and you'll love it.
Oh, I cannot wait to talk to her because she can dish the dish. Oh, she's got good stories. And she knows a shit ton about abortion. So funny, hot, knows about abortion, spilling the tea on America's Next Top Model. That sounds like the perfect guest.
It's a win and a win and a win, Liz.
Join our Patreon. Give us money. If you do, you'll support great content and get cool merch and experiences. All pledges support this pod and all of our activism at Abortion Access Front. Pledge at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills. FBK is edited by Remy DeTournay and is produced by Jin Moon for Abortion Access Front.
Finally, we leave you with the Merrifields of TLC's Seeking Sister Wife. Two people showing their whole asses by insisting that if you do too much fucking, you can fuck the emotion right out of you.
Is that what happened?
They found that after women usually have around 5 men that they just can't like bond anymore.
What?
After a woman has like 5 different partners, the chances of her bonding or even having a lasting relationship drops like crazy amount, like just percentage-wise. Like
It's a sperm.
it's just the sperm being inside of her changes, yeah, the person.
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.